The book that I'm going to read to you today is called The Lost Letter to Santa. It's written by Mary B. and illustrated by Randy Commander. The Lost Letter to Santa. Skippy was a squirrel who lived in the big oak tree in the Lucky's front yard. Skippy loved the Luckets. They were very friendly. Their daughter Amelia always fed the birds, and in the winter she put dried corn out for Skippy and his friend Scamper, a chipmunk who burrowed in the ground below Skippy's tree. One day, as Skippy collected acorns, the mailman arrived. He took a letter from the Luckets' mailbox, lowered the red flag, and placed their daily mail inside. As the truck pulled away, Skippy noticed something lying against the front curb. Skippy scurried over to see what had fallen in the curb. It was a letter addressed to North Pole from Amelia Lockett to none other than Santa Claus himself. A letter to Santa? This is important. If Santa didn't get the letter, how could he know what Amelia wanted? And if Santa didn't know what Amelia wanted, how could he deliver it on Christmas Eve? He was really concerned about that letter. He loved the decorations and the lights, but best of all, Skippy loved Christmas. He enjoyed the holiday treats Amelia left, carrot strips, apple slices, and even grapes. Everyone loves Christmas, but how could Amelia feel if Christmas morning came with no gift from Santa? Dry leaves skittered across the letter as Skippy watched the wind blow it down the street. I must do something, he thought, but what? But what can I do? Skippy took the letter and ran to Scamper, who was busily storing food for the winter. Look, he said, Amelia's letter to Santa. I found it against the curb underneath the leaves. Scamper agreed that this was indeed a serious problem. Amelia's letter had to be delivered, and he and Skippy had to do it together. After a scurried meal of nuts and mushrooms, Skippy and Scamper set out. Now, see, they're eating right now Now they're going to go to the North Pole. How do we get to the North Pole? Asked Skippy. It's easy, said Scamper. We'll just follow the North Star. And they did. They traveled for many days, sometimes on the ground, sometimes in tree branches. Though they grew tired, they continued on their way, for they reminded themselves that neither the snow nor the rain, nor the sleet nor the gloom of night could prevent the delivery of Amelia's letter. They had to get it to Santa Claus. As they traveled north, the air grew colder. Just when it seemed the two could hardly go on, they met Ruby, a friendly cardinal, who was most surprised to see the squirrel carrying a letter. What are you two doing with that letter? She asked. We're going to the North Pole to deliver the lost letter to Santa, said Scamper, but we're beginning to lose hope of ever getting there. A letter to Santa? Don't give up, said Ruby. I'll lead you there, but I don't suppose you can fly. No, said Skippy, we can't. They can't fly. They could only go on the ground or in the trees. Ruby felt sorry for the two furry friends. Of course not, she said. Still, it's only another day or two. First, let me help you find a snack. Encouraged and fed, Scamper and Skippy followed Ruby as she patiently flew a little distance. Then she waited for them, and then flew another little more distance. And she kept on doing that until they got to Santa, I bet. Just look at them. In just 2 days, they arrived at Santa's home. Skippy was relieved, but a little sad too. Now he and Scamper would never make it home for Christmas. The North Pole, they got there. Ruby sang at the Claus's front door. "What a beautiful song," remarked Mrs. Claus. "I wonder who it is." She opened the door to the sight of Ruby, Scamper, Skippy, who held the damp, tattered envelope in his paws. "Special deliver," said Skippy, "a letter for Santa." Just look at them now. She's reading, or she's looking at the envelope. "Oh my," said Mrs. Claus, "do come in. You must have come quite a long ways, but couldn't the letter have been mailed to the North Pole?" "It was supposed to be," answered Skippy, "but it fell against the curb." "I see," said Mrs. Claus, "then you may well have saved someone's Christmas." "Santa," she called. When Santa came, Mrs. Claus handed him the letter. Skippy explained again the reason for their visit. "Ho, ho, ho," laughed Santa boyishly, taking the letter. "It seems the three of you are quite the Christmas elves." "Oh, not me," protested Ruby. "I joined only at the end of their journey. They're the real elves. They came far, far away." "Just look at them now." "Come," said Mrs. Claus. "You must be hungry." She filled them with nuts, seeds, fruit, and of course cookies and cocoa for dessert. Skippy and Scamper were glad to have the delicious meal before the journey home. And Santa's home was so merry that they couldn't help but feel rather merry themselves. "Thank you, friends," said Skippy. "You've been so kind. But we must go. We have to return journey ahead." "I'll go with you," said Ruby. She hated to see them leave. "Oh, that won't be necessary," boomed Santa cheerfully. "Your journey can wait. Christmas is just around the corner, and my route just happens to go right by the Luckett house. I can sure use the company of 3 good elves." "Really?" asked Skippy and Scamper in unison. "Really," said Santa. "And Ruby, you'll ride along too, of course." See them all eating. Cardinal over here. They had a merry time. A Christmas Eve ride in Santa's sleigh seems too good to be true. "Please do stay," said Mrs. Claus. "You saved Christmas for Amelia Lockett. Let Santa save Christmas for you." They couldn't refuse, and you can be safe for sure. As they slept that night in the soft little beds that Mrs. Claus prepared, they were 3 of the happiest Christmas elves ever to be found. And that is the end of that story. So they got to sleep at Mr. and Mrs. Claus's home. Wasn't that exciting? Here's the little bird sleeping over here, and they're sleeping, Skipper and Scamper sleeping in that bed right there. Thank you so very much for listening to this story. Have a wonderful day, and God bless.